Last video, I got my viewers to collectively make a cough map. Obviously, it sucked, since I let them go wild with it. But what happens if they take it seriously and genuinely try to make a good map? I told them that if the map sucks, I won't add it to the 100-player server. With stakes that high, this is the payload map, designed for 100 players, that they created over 11 days. They started out by deciding to establish the card's route first. Submissions were narrowed down to 12, to which this drawing won. From there, chat settled where the checkpoints would be, and filled out each point. Point 1 was pieced together through 3 drawings: the area right out of spawn, the space until the spiral, and a flank room. From this drawing, the spiral was established to be a cliffside, then these 3 drawings for what's on top. The transitional space where the card track loops back in on itself, the features on the cliff's surface, and the interior of the flank building. A straightforward combat space for point 3, featuring some sort of house behind the point, so we stole one from Mountain Lab. From point 3 to point 4, randomly now a mining-themed cave, plus this lava cauldron thing stolen from Foundry. And last, a snaking path, whose author simply decided not to draw the payload finale, which ended up being the Half-Life 1 resonance cascade directly pasted into the map. That's the basic layout, but it needs to be fine-tuned now. After lots of playtesting, this is what chat added between this first draft and the final version. For the first point, chat moved the spawn room forward, so the cart is now part of blue spawn. Turned the wall into one-way glass. Added a trench inside the spawn. And a big balcony. For all the playtests, blue has never had trouble getting out of spawn and capping the first point, but the problem seems to be the repeated dying to grind red down enough to force them to back up. So that's the reason for all the changes to spawn. Though chat immediately worked against that by adding a tower here and this catwalk extension, which can only help red. When red gets pushed out of this first area, they back up all the way to the spiral, so blue will never get to make use of them. Blue was still able to reliably break out a spawn after these additions though, so I guess no harm no foul. But first point was already pretty okay to begin with, so that's all chat did. Balancing the spiral though was the biggest struggle. The fundamental problem seems to be with how red has all of the mountaintop to freely shoot down at blue, while blue doesn't really have any solid ground to fight from. To fix this, chat of course opted for band-aid fixes. Starting with the spiral itself, glass and panels were added. The panels were meant to give blue team cover in important spots as they pushed the cart up. The glass was added to stop red team from shooting into it from oppressive angles. A fence at the back to stop snipers. A walkway connecting the top 2 levels together. The center tube hollowed out for a launch pad to the top, which later had one exit covered with glass. For the mountain itself, 3 tunnels for the top, middle, and lower end were added. The top door eventually got raised to reduce red players walking through, and the door turned into a gate for visibility. Blue team would get a forward spawn here, but it was later moved back here since spam became maybe a bit problematic. Even with a forward spawn, a whole new checkpoint halfway up the spiral was added, with pathways to help blue get into position quickly. And there's still more changes to list. Fences were added. The underside of this balcony was sealed off, since sentries would snipe through it. The roofs were made no-build, because sentries again. A glass window was added here, and the checkpoint was moved back. Only after all this, after 14 versions of slowly adding bits and pieces, was the spiral area deemed okay enough. In its final form, it's a massive spam fest and probably still a bit hard for Blue to attack, but chat believes it's mostly good enough. I think the moral of this story is, give Blue usable space. So much seems to stem from how the only ways for Blue to get on the mountain is concentrated in this corner here. If we gave Blue a platform or a side path, we could have skipped out on the 20 band-aids. But past the spiral, much less tweaking was needed. A rocket was added here to cut down on sightlines a bit, and what used to be a dinky door turned into 2 gates, since it was really easy for Red Team to completely shut it down, which then made this point impossible for Blue to push, since they would have no other flanks to push. A glass window here, fences to stop relentless spam into the balcony, and an archway across to mitigate sightlines. The mountain lab house we stole was originally meant to be some nondescript combat space, but it ended up being hijacked as a convenient spawn room location, so both Red and Blue spawned there at different points. The cave placed in the transitional space was entirely raised up and pushed to the side to eliminate sightlines. It now has a curved bridge leading up to it, with an extended platform at the entrance. Below that, 2 shutter doors connecting Blue Team to the network of paths underneath, and that was it. And last point, similar story of minimal tweaks. This upper room was fun to fight in, but it was really hard for Blue to take control since they can't see what's around the corner. Blue's side also used to be accessible only to movement classes, while any class on the red side could enter. Blue Team was given a ramp, and the dividing wall turned into glass, which made it a lot more fair for Blue. A flank was added here with 2 exit doors, and the tactical cow repositioned to give Blue cover instead. Besides that, a ceiling was added here with a player clip. And that's it. This is chat's masterpiece. I let them name the map again, but after spelling out the first 3 letters, I told them it can't be these something again, so they pivoted to DBZ, so PLDBZ. Most rated it a 7 out of 10, yet they voted 96% in favor of putting it on the 100-player server. Personally, I think the final version of this map is honestly not bad. Each section has its own twist. The stupid spiral, this big doorway fight, the strange 2-story cave gameplay. There isn't any super glaring flaws that can't be fixed later down the line, and every point genuinely seems doable for Blue, so I'm gonna put the map up for anyone who wants to art pass it. After it's not this mess of dev textures, I'll release it into the wilds of 100-player tf2, and players can vote again if it should really stay on the server. This was a democratically made map, but I think we can go much deeper than this. After having gone through this process, I don't think doing this on a livestream actually made sense, since it's so restrictive on who can show up to participate. I'm going to set up a new section of the 100-player server Discord. Chat makes a map again, but even more democratically than ever before. Way more time to vote and create proposals. We could keep doing it, and gamers will hypothetically have a utopian, self-sufficient way of creating new maps for themselves over time. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, we'll have to see. All relevant information in the pinned comment.
You know, on the surface, we should have failed, like, and